Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've got another book for you because I read a lot of books. This one is called The Midnight Man by Caroline Mitchell. This is more kind of a horror style, which I don't read very often. Yeah, so that is the front cover of the book. This was creepy and I loved it. It's called A Slayton Thriller. And it seemed like this was like the first book or a possible series. This was so good, it was so creepy. I'll get the blurb up for you. It's 320 pages in fiction, crime, thriller and supernatural. The thing is, the supernatural bit, it's only a tiny element of it, and when I got to the end of it, it's like, oh, does that kind of explain this bit? Here's the blurb. If you open your door to the Midnight Man, hide with a candle wherever you can. Try not to scream as he draws near, because one of you won't be leaving here. On Halloween night in Slayton, 5 girls go to Blackhall Manor to play the midnight game. They write their names on a piece of paper and prick their fingers to soak it in blood. At exactly midnight, they knock on the door 22 times. They have invited the Midnight Man in. It was supposed to be a game, but only 4 girls came home. Detective Sarah Noble has just returned to the force, and no one knows more about Blackhall Manor than her. It's a case that will take Sarah back to everything she's been running from and shake her to the core. Will she be ready to meet the Midnight Man? Sound creepy? It was creepy. I took a screen grab of the first chapter because it was such a good opening line. The first line of the whole book is, I remember the day I died quite clearly. If that doesn't hook you in, I don't think I know anything that would. It was just so creepy and disturbing and I loved it. I'm kind of enjoying the creepy and disturbing because I'm watching The Handmaid's Tale at the moment, because I'm watching season 3, and I've realised that as it's gotten darker, I'm enjoying it so much more. And I know that a lot of people have kind of been put off Handmaid's Tale. I think people started to go a bit towards the end of season 2, but it's just like, if you like the dark and disturbing, keep going with it. Anyway, back to the Midnight Man. Straight away you're pretty much meeting Detective Sarah Noble, and she's just returned to the force after some, I think it's about a year off. She was on sick leave during that time, because she had a bit of a mental breakdown, basically. Throughout the book you get little drips of kind of what happened, her relationship with her husband, and kind of what happened that led her to taking that year off and then coming back. And you find out that her husband has died, but it wasn't a nice ending for him. He was found in his shed with his trousers around his ankles and some very horrible images on his computer. So yeah, throughout the book you get that drip kind of what happened to her husband, but it's not really that much of a reveal when you find out how she found him. But there is also a bit of an abuse storyline running through as well. You find out that Sarah has been away from Slayton for quite a long time, and she has come back, and only a few people really know who she is, because you find out, I think it's about 100 pages in, that she's changed her name. She's taken her mother's maiden name rather than going through life with her father's name. In the prologue, it's set in 1994, the 31st of October 1994 to be specific, so it's Halloween, and it kind of leads on to kind of what happens leading up to kind of the midnight game and the Midnight Man. In that first chapter in the prologue, you are introduced to a little girl and you see her living in Blackhall Manor with her parents and her brother. And she says goodnight to her dad, who is in his study cleaning his gun. As she goes to bed, suddenly she hears like a really big explosion, almost like a firework. And then she realises that somebody is going around the house shooting everybody. When she hears her mother going, "Not my little girl." Yeah, she hears her father's voice and realises that it sounds like her dad is going around the house shooting her family. So she realises that her little brother Robin was the first person to be shot. Then you hear her mother being shot, and then the little girl goes and hides in the wardrobe and hears her father's voice saying her name, to which point she kind of crouches down in the wardrobe, and she has a little look out of like the keyhole, because she's been locked in the wardrobe by her mother. Looks out the keyhole and all she sees is the barrel of the gun. It leads you and everybody else to believe that everybody in the house died that night, because her father is found dead afterwards, and so it appears that her father shot the entire family and then turned the gun on himself. Then, as you meet Detective Sarah Noble, you soon find out that Sarah was a little girl from the beginning of the book, and that even though she didn't die, she feels like a part of her died that night. So she becomes very much involved in the investigation when 5 girls played the midnight game at Blackhall Manor, and so the 5 girls go into the house. They've got this game where they have to take a candle. If the candle goes out, they have so much time to relight it. They have to stay in the house until about 3:33 in the morning, I think it is. It's a very specific time that, yeah, they have to stay in the house until. And if they feel like they can't survive the night or whatever, then they can do a circle of salt and stay inside the circle of salt until that set time in the morning. The girls who play it, they all think that this girl called Angela sent the invite, but then it turns out that Angela wasn't the one who sent the invite, and Angela is the one that goes missing first. So it starts off with that, it's kind of like a supernatural thriller, bit of horror detective series. Based on the ending, I really hope it is a series, because there's so much more. There's so many places this thing could go. And I'm very, very excited, and the fact that it says a Slayton thriller makes me think that there's going to be more mysteries and things around Slayton, because you've got Upper Slayton and Lower Slayton. It seemed that after the events of that night in the 80s where the family was shot at the manor, the town got split because they didn't trust that Slayton was safe, and so you've got Upper Slayton where they managed to create basically a gated community. It's all based on kind of protecting people, but then in Lower Slayton, that's kind of like the council houses type thing. There's a very clear divide between Upper Slayton and Lower Slayton. When Sarah comes back and she realises that there's a couple of friends in town that she can kind of keep up with. There's an old friend called Elsie that she knew at school. When Sarah goes back to work, she's not put onto the same duties that she was before. She becomes kind of like a people person, kind of going out interviewing people. Because on Halloween night, there was obviously lots of teenagers about, and they were all kind of running amok. Elsie reports a broken gate, basically, and her son encourages her to report this act of vandalism, essentially. And I will say that even though I did slightly stumble upon the why of what happens at the end and everything, I did not get the who. So many theories went through my head, and from the beginning I was just thinking, is it this kid? Is it Elsie's son? Is a really, really big kind of question mark over everything, because from the very beginning there were little things you're told about Elsie's son that you just don't quite trust, and you just think, did he do it? And you're getting chapters in italics from the person who actually is the Midnight Man, who did invite the girls to the manor and started this whole game. Yeah, I did not see the ending coming. I did not see it coming. I had no inkling as to who it was. Despite all the hints and kind of the little droppings of stuff, because it becomes clear that a lot of people don't want the manor to be standing anymore. They want to get rid of the manor, but as the only kind of heir left to it, because I think originally it was supposed to go to her brother, but obviously Robin died when he was a child, and so as the last surviving family member, the house belongs to Sarah, and she's not ready to get rid of it. It's still in her past. She's still dealing with everything that happened at the house. She needs closure, but she hasn't got it, and so she just leaves it. There's nothing that she can do to get rid of the house. It is derelict, it is falling apart. They've got people whose job it is to kind of keep an eye on the house and like do the security and try to stop people from going in. Elsie's son is actually part of that security team. As I was reading the book, I was just thinking, is kind of the motive behind what's happening here something to do with who owns the house and the fact that there are people out there who want the land that the manor lives on? Because you find out because of Upper Slayton and all the houses that have been built over the years to kind of protect the residents of Upper Slayton, you're just there thinking, is this going down the route of somebody wants the land and therefore they're going to do anything to kind of get somebody to sell it? Which slightly stumbles upon a motive, or part of a motive. But when I got to the end, it was just like, when you find out who the Midnight Man is, and what actually happened the night that Sarah's family was killed. Because there's another detective that Sarah works with who's part of a bit of a conspiracy Facebook page, where they're just like, we don't quite believe the story that the news sent out, that your father went crazy and just shot his entire family. We have theories that somebody else might have been involved, and Sarah's there going, I was there, I know who shot me, I heard my father's voice, you know, I know what happened in that house. But then you realise she was a child, so she could never be 100% sure of what she saw and heard, because at the same time she was also locked in the wardrobe by her mother because her mother was trying to protect her. And so the things that come out about kind of what happened all those years ago on that Halloween night, the fact that even after you find out kind of what actually happened in the house, who was involved, and who is now terrorising the residents of Slayton and seems to be like hell-bent on getting revenge on Sarah, because you realise through the Midnight Man's chapters, the ones that are all in italics, you realise that he has something against Sarah. The amount of times you get little things of saying she should have died that night and this whole game is because of her. Until she comes back to the house, nobody is safe. And so you're just like, what is going on here? I was looking at kind of the other characters and thinking, who else would have been around who could have been involved and old enough to kind of pull off something like that? I'm kind of shut up now because I feel like if I say any more, it's just going to get more complicated. But I really enjoyed this. It was so dark. It was so sinister. And for somebody who doesn't read that many horror-style books, I have read a few Stephen King books, you know. I've got a family friend who is an author and he does horror books. Sometimes I look at him and think, how did you write this? You seem so nice. But yeah, it was so good, and I am looking forward to the rest of this series, because at the end, when Sarah kind of comes to a point where she's just like, I've gotten my closure, and you know, I feel like I'm ready to get rid of this house, but then there's a spanner in the works and they're just like, nope, the manor lives on, and you're just like, oh. I don't think that's a spoiler to really find that out, especially when you know now that I know that it's a series. And I'm wondering how much more that house is going to be kind of affecting everything, because a lot of the residents of this town think that the town is cursed, and it started on that Halloween night when Sarah's family died. It feels weird to be smiling when I'm talking about a book like this. It was clever, you got the different points of view. I've left out a very significant part of the book because I feel like it's one that you can kind of learn by yourself, but it does involve another friend of Sarah's and a child, and that kind of lends into kind of the slightly supernatural element of it. But yeah, if you like horrors and thrillers and detective series and stuff with like really good twists that you don't see coming, I think you'll enjoy this one. This seems like such a good series to get into. But yeah, so it's The Midnight Man by Caroline Mitchell. That is the front cover of the book. Oh, I'm getting a bit of a reflection there. There you go. Oh, it was just so good. I can't wait for the next one. Yeah, it says, from the #1 best-selling author Caroline Mitchell comes the first chilling Slayton thriller for fans of C.J. Tudor and Stephen King. I haven't read that many Stephen King books, so I can't really do a comparison there. I think I've read 2 Stephen King books. That sounds about right. I've read Misery, and I've read From a Buick 8. I've got other Stephen King books on the shelf, which I'm hoping to get to at some point, but at this point I've actually only read 2 Stephen King books. But yeah, the whole concept of it and the idea of a woman who is involved in such horrific crimes, who actually, because in that first chapter, when you realise that when you feel like you're reading from the point of view of somebody who has already died, and then you realise, oh, no, it's a part of her died that night. She will never be the same person after everything that happened there. Oh, it was just so good, and I can't wait for the other books. Yeah, Midnight Man, Caroline Mitchell. Go read it if you like a good detective thriller horror style series. Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. What other books am I reading at the moment, just to kind of keep you in the loop? I've just started the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I've got another book with the name Evelyn in it, so I'm getting slightly confused there. That's really hard to say. The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I'm only on the first chapter at this point, but it seems really weird. And I'm very, very intrigued. I haven't got much of the David Sedaris book left, so I'm hoping to finish that soon. I've got A Funny Life by Michael McIntyre next. This was one I got for Christmas. It's a signed copy, so that's pretty cool. When I saw it, I was just like, oh, Mum, look, it's signed. And she was just like, do you want it as a Christmas gift? And I was just like, sure. It was one of the gifts that I knew about, but I really don't mind that. Slowly making my way through that bookshelf. I think it's because it's just so easy to read stuff like on my iPad and my phone. So the physical books do take a little bit longer, but I'm hoping to kind of give myself a bit of a break from BorrowBox for a bit, because I feel like I've read quite a lot on those, and because the physical books take a little bit longer to read, it allows me to kind of catch up a little bit, because I've got so many unedited book reviews on my computer that I'm probably a few months in advance, so I can slow it down a bit. I can concentrate on my musical. Anyway, I'm gonna go have some lunch. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. Hello to the newbies, it's nice to see you, and I'll see you next week with another video. Mwah. Bye!